Thank God it's Friday, Eastern Football League lovers. It's week 2 in the Choose Tap final series, and it's Friday preview time as we bring you everything that's happening as you go local for your footy this weekend. My name is Ben Warren Smith, and joining me this afternoon to go through all this weekend's matches is the big man who milks cows for a living, the frosty one, Peter Baird. G'day.
G'day, Benny. Great afternoon on a Friday afternoon to look at finals in all 4 divisions this week. What a cracking weekend it was to start off the Choose Tap finals campaign in divisions 2, 3 and 4 last week. This week the big boys take centre stage out at Bayswater Oval on Saturday. Can't wait to get out there for that one between Vermont and Scoresby.
Well, a man who will be joining us out at that very game is the rising star of the EFL media team, and you hear him every week on the Friday preview, and it's a very good afternoon to Daniel Cencic.
Yeah, very good afternoon to you, BWS, and to all the listeners out there. Cannot wait to get out to Scoresby, Vermont tomorrow afternoon, set to be an absolute cracker.
Well, let's start it off, shall we? There's 2 great finals happening in the second week of the Choose Tap final series in Division 4 this weekend. Let's start out at Tormore Reserve on Saturday afternoon for the first semi-final. Sylvan taking on Ferntree Gully. How do you see this one going, Dan?
Look, the last time these two sides played, Ferntree Gully got away with a win. They were absolutely fantastic that day. And one of the main things that they did really well that day was their marking forwards. Up forward really stood up for them. Players like Paul Hagar and Ryan Pearce. And, of course, Jamie Lovett stood up and kicked about 4 goals that day. He was absolutely outstanding. Christopher Cox through the midfield was brilliant. He's been named in the best 9 times. And, of course, we can't forget the experienced Paul Giannopoulos. He knows what finals are all about. And the Ferntree Gully side, of course, know what finals are all about. They're experienced campaigners and everything like that. Bernie Ryan coming across has done a really great job in uniting the team and making them play for one another. I think the Ferntree Gully side will be looking to repeat their feats from last time against Sylvan. What they did really well after quarter time the last time they played Sylvan was they corrected up on their disposal. And once they can hit targets by foot, they're absolutely dangerous side, Ferntree Gully. That'll go a long way to getting the result thereafter. I'm going to go for the Ferntree Gully Eagles on Saturday afternoon.
Ferntree Gully may have results on the board in finals over the last few years, but Sylvan got a football lesson of how to play finals from South Belgrave last week, Dan. I reckon they would have learnt a big lesson by that. Going down by 96 points to the Saints, they would have seen what it takes to play finals footy, and I reckon they'll come prepared this week to take on Ferntree Gully. I can't see Dan Toohey and Ash Frau both being held goalless 2 weeks in a row. Neither of them got on the scoreboard last week in their 96-point loss to the Saints. They'll be fired up and ready to take on the Eagles' defence this week. Sylvan's midfield is probably up there with the best going around in Division 4. When you get guys like Andrew Volpetti, Ben Strawhair, Michael Bonfadini, Adam Newing, going through that middle, sending the ball down into the Sylvan forward line, I reckon they could trouble the Eagles this weekend. Sylvan, they're going to have a point to prove. No team likes to get beaten by nearly 100 points in a final, and the Cats are going to come ready to play. I reckon Sylvan can pinch this one from Ferntree Gully, Dan.
Well, I guess that leaves the casting vote to me then, and I'm going to stick with the Ferntree Gully Eagles. If form's anything to go by, they are the side to back as the underdog going into the Choose Tap final series for Division 4. They've been on a little bit of a roll lately, and they've got the attitude of they're not afraid of anything or anyone that comes before them. Sylvan will want to wipe last week's game very quickly from their memory. It was their first appearance in the final series in the Eastern Football League, and to only score 2 goals for the afternoon will be a bit of a worry for Chris Goodlett and Sean Toohey. The scary thing for me is that Sylvan's played 6 games against the top 5 sides in season 2012 and they haven't won any of them. Tomorrow's finals time, they got showed up last week, and Ferntree Gully are on too much of a roll to be stopped in their tracks now. The second semi-final out at Walker Park on Sunday afternoon between the Basin and South Belgrave has been mouth-watering for weeks now, Pete.
Certainly has. It's going to be one of our Radio Eastern Match of the Days, broadcast live on Sunday afternoon from 2 to 6 p.m. And I reckon the South Belgrave Saints can turn the table on the Basin this year. They've gone down to them twice, both games by a margin of 12 points, but I don't reckon South Belgrave coach Nick Cox has shown Michael Glasper and his Basin boys his full deck of tricks just yet. I reckon the key might be Nick Cox himself. He kicked 4 goals last week in the South Belgrave demoralisation of Sylvan in the first week of the finals. It was probably South Belgrave's best performance this year. Lucas Appleby and Alex Bacons provide huge targets for him up forward, and their backline is so solid. You've got guys like Todd Burley down there, Kane Jeffries, Brock Ferguson, David Taylor adds experience to them as well, and their midfield is just classy. Tommy Hallinen's is just got silky skills. He'll be back in the side. I have no doubt about that. And when you throw in some of the X factors, some of the guys that can take some of the smaller forwards, and the Basin have some smaller forwards that he needs to worry about. Guys like John Horton and Mark Haley can take those types. We saw Mark Haley in a best on ground performance nullify Ash Stroud last week. I reckon South Belgrave have been setting themselves for this one. You don't win premierships throughout the home and away season. When it's on the line in finals, I reckon the South Belgrave Saints will take it right up to the Basin and prove that they're now the team to beat when they knock off the Bears on Sunday afternoon out at Walker Park, Dan.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to disagree there, Pete. The Basin are a side on a mission this season, there's no doubt about it. They've got a great spread of goal kickers. Brent Galiccio, Matthew Smith, Andy Kroll-Trera and Battier has been absolutely fantastic for them this season. And the Basin in the finals, you know, they've got experienced players and younger players. Players like Todd Power and Daniel Zenbraber. So that great core of experience right there. Combined with younger players like Maxi Kruger, who's been absolutely fantastic this season for the Basin. We spoke to the Basin coach Mick Glassborough on EFL TV, and he has the boys absolutely up and about for this match. There's no doubt about it. These two sides met twice throughout the EFL season, and the Basin won both games by 12 points. So a combined total of 24 points between them this season. But that'll give the Basin a lot of confidence going into Sunday's match. And they will get this one done by the barest of margins.
The Basin deserve to be favourites going into this game. They won an extraordinary 59 out of 64 quarters throughout season 2012, and this is the best record of any team over the last 5 years. And funnily enough, the last team to hold that record was the Ferntree Gully Eagles, who didn't go on to win the grand final that year. They've had the best record in each of the 4 quarters, and they've been the most accurate side in Division 4. They've kicked 100 points in 15 out of 16 games, and they've only conceded 100 points once. But on the plus side for South Belgrave, they've kicked 100 points in 13 of 17 games, and they too have only conceded 100 points once. It's fair to say in what is most likely going to be a shootout out there on Sunday afternoon, whoever breaks the ton is going to go a long way towards victory, and the Basin deserve to be favourite in this one, and I think they might do it by about 4 goals plus. It will start with 4 teams and only 3 will survive. Division 4 Tuesday Final Series Saturday and Sunday. Get out to Tormore Reserve on Saturday. Get out to Walker Park on Sunday. Sure to be some great contests. Hasn't Division 3 this year had everybody's close eye on it? And as we move into the second week of the Tuesday Final Series, Daniel Cencic, we head out on Saturday afternoon for the second semi-final at East Burwood between North Ringwood and the Glen Waverley Hawks. Both these sides finishing 1 and 2 after season's end. North Ringwood had the break. Glen Waverley Hawks got over Baronia. How is this game going to pan out?
Yeah, a lot of pressure on North Ringwood coming into this game. There's no doubt about it, given what's happened for the past 2 seasons. But I think it's their time now to really shine and get a win over the Glen Waverley Hawks. We spoke to the North Ringwood coach, Brett Moyle, on EFL TV, and he was adamant that they learned a lot from the losses to the Glen Waverley Hawks this season. There's that saying that you do learn more from a loss, and I think North Ringwood are ready to take the next step. They've had a lot of great players so far this season. De Kaiser's been one of them. Anthony Sharp, Barrett Whelan, been absolutely fantastic for North Ringwood. And as I mentioned, there is a lot of pressure on them in this game, but it's their time to shine. One of the main keys to North Ringwood getting a win this weekend will be Maxi Melzer. He's a fantastic backman for him. We watched him against Mitcham. He was one of the players of the day. Who will he match up on? Will it be Carnelli? Will it be Alzapati? Will it be Gray? I'm sure he's got the capacity to cover any one of those guys. And of course, North Ringwood are really bolstered by the return of Weeks into the side from suspension. He's had the week off. He'll be refreshed. He's cherry ripe and ready to go this weekend. Brett Moyle's boys will not let the North Ringwood supporters down this weekend. They will book their place in the 2012 Shoes Tap Division 3 Grand Final.
Once again, Daniel Cencic, we're not seeing this game on the same page. I reckon the Glen Waverley Hawks are Monties in this one. I really like their forward structure they've got at the moment with the 3 big forwards, Matt Carnelli, Andrew Azapati, Danny Gray. Also, the Pig, Simon Grasser, might be back this week. I'm hearing strong rumours that he's trained strongly during the week. He may play. And even out on the track as recently as Tuesday and Thursday night for the Glen Waverley Hawks, wait for this one, Robbie Davies, after an injury that nearly took his life earlier in the year, making a big statement to try and get back into this Glen Waverley Hawks side. Their midfield has been led by a couple of young dynamos this year. David Lang and Tim Cook have been fantastic for the Hawks. And Big Fia Tutu, I reckon he might go into the ruck this week. North Ringwood don't have those big forwards. I don't reckon he'll be needed down back. If he goes into the middle, that might be the X factor for the Glen Waverley Hawks. Also returning to the Hawks lineup this week, look for Brad Riddle and Brad Hunter, the shooter, to come back into the side. I reckon the Glen Waverley Hawks are looking to make a statement. After missing out on the flag last year in Division 4, they're going to go a long way to getting that and backing it up in Division 3 with a premiership. I like the Glen Waverley Hawks tomorrow afternoon out at East Burwood Reserve. I'm going to tip them in a nail-biter against North Ringwood.
North Ringwood have only won 7 final quarters this season, although they have won the fourth quarter in 4 of the last 6 games. Both these sides have a great ability to win away from home this season, with the Glen Waverley Hawks only losing 1 match away and North Ringwood 2. North Ringwood conceded 14 less goals in the home and away season, but they also kicked 77 less goals than what they did in 2001 and finishing in the same spot. They're the most accurate side in Division 3, kicking at 56.4%, but the Glen Waverley Hawks are right on their hammer in second spot. The Hawks, though, are ranked equal first for 100-plus scores with 8. Now, that's along with the Wanturna South Football Club, who didn't actually make the final. So once again, it looks like it's going to be the side that's able to put the score on the board that fast enough that will get them over the line. Danny Gray for the Hawks last week, he was super up forward, creates a really good target for them. The Cencic, Jason Sharp duel will be a great one. Of course, Daniel Walls has got an injury cloud over him. Will he come into the side? He's a very senior player down there and an experienced one. I'm really looking forward to the duel of Adam Tuck versus Disco Danny Kenor in the ruck. It will be a very important duel all afternoon, and who can get on top in the middle will definitely feed down to the forwards to kick that winning score. I have to go with North Ringwood, Pete. They're going to be the freshest side here. They got a good look at Glen Waverley last week, who played in pretty tough conditions in a hard-fought win against Baronia. I think North Ringwood are ready to make the next step, and it starts on Saturday, and they'll win. Vermont Recreation Reserve is the place to be this Sunday afternoon for the first semi-final between Baronia and Ringwood. Happy hunting ground for the Redbacks last week, winning in extra time.
Yeah, fantastic win there from Ringwood, coming from behind late in the final quarter to steal a draw and then getting the job done in extra time, as you said, BWS. Adam Parsons, he was the guy that got Ringwood up and going. He and Luke Davis were fantastic last week for the Redbacks. They've got 3 big forwards themselves, James Katsiavos, Trent Farmer, who's had a stellar year this year for Ringwood, and of course Scott Lang. They get plenty of run off halfback with the 2 Burmeister brothers, Paddy and Tim, and Andrew Waddle coming off halfback as well has been super for them. Their midfield, Vinnie Jones and Luke Jones in there, they just continue to run all day, and their big ruckman, he's very experienced, Ryan Grinter, will give them first use. I reckon Ringwood can get the job done. The only question is, has the draw taken its toll on the Redbacks this week? I reckon they'll be up and about. They'll be riding high off the back of that win, pinching it in extra time. I reckon the Redbacks can get the job done. They will win. They will defeat Baronia, Daniel Cencic.
No, I'm afraid Baronia have got a lot of good players about their side, and Baronia are a side out for blood this final series, there's no doubt about it. They'll be out to prove a lot of critics wrong in this final series, bridging that gap between the Glen Waverley Hawks and North Ringwood above them. And why can't they do it? They've got great players in their side, like Patrick Garrett. He's been named in the best 10 times. Craig Foligno, fantastic player for them. And of course, Luke Allison's been one of their best all season long. And up forward, Baronia have got a lot of fire, but the Ringwood defenders are really going to have their work cut out for. Jason Heath kicked 29 goals, so's Matthew Smith, so there's nearly 60 goals between them. So the key to Baronia this Sunday afternoon will be whether those 2 guys can fire, and I'm sure they will. They know how to stand up in big games and win them off their own boot as well. Jason Heath knows how to make great leads, clunk marks and kick goals. Ringwood defenders will really need to tighten him up to really go about shutting him down, but I think Baronia, too much class across the board, will win this game.
Baronia won 38 quarters for season 2012, Ringwood 46. Ringwood are a really well-travelled side in season 2012. They won 7 on the road with a plus differential of 287 points. So not only do they travel well, they like to kick a big score when they travel. With this game being on neutral territory out at Vermont Recreation Reserve, you have to treat this as an away game. Baronia, they've been okay on the road as well, winning 6 games this year, and they've also been the better of the 2 sides when they've played other sides in that top 5, winning 4 as opposed to Ringwood 3. Where's this game going to be won? Baronia really need to lift right across the board. Jason Heath and Ben Holland, they were really well held last week against Glen Waverley. Lachlan Watson really stood up across the half-forward line. Pat Garrity, as Dan already mentioned, he's a versatile player. He can be thrown back, he can be thrown forward, and of course in the inclusion last week of Dean Grice and Shannon Bainbridge only bolstered Baronia's chances. Ringwood, they'll be riding high. They were gone and then they lifted themselves and they play on for another week. They need to kick a big score. Katsiavos and Farmer really need to get amongst it. Paddy Burmeister and Tim Burmeister, they need to get down. They need to kick goals. Expect big games from Luke Davis and, of course, Adam Parsons, who was best on ground last week. I expect this game to go right down to the wire. If last Sunday out there was anything to go by, expect a close game out there again. Baronia, it's really a toss of the coin game here. I don't know which way to go. No, I'm changed my mind. I'm going Ringwood. Two terrific matches across Division 3 on the weekend, but there's only one in Division 2, and it's the preliminary final out at Jubilee Park, and it's Roval taking on Mooroolbark, set to be a monster clash.
We've seen what Mooroolbark are capable of at their home ground, but what about on a great surface like Jubilee Park? Fantastic plays in their side. Cameron Linford, Mark Martin, Trent Giorgio will really relish this surface of playing on. They really looked like they enjoyed playing on it, as we saw last week. Talevsky was absolutely fantastic, as was Benjamin Mullett. And Matty Polkinghorn, the great clubman that he is, continues to go from strength to strength, as he has for many years now. Look, Mooroolbark have got a lot of their eye on the prize. They're a great team right across the board. Mooroolbark will be making Roval very, very nervous, who have only won 2 finals since the 04 Premiership. And, of course, they went out in straight sets last year as well. So coming up against a side like Mooroolbark, who've got a lot of class in their side, they'll be getting very nervous for this weekend's game. I'm going to go Mooroolbark. Roval will be out in straight sets, and they'll be meeting Montrose in the grand final next weekend.
Once again, Daniel Cencic, we have to agree to disagree on this one. My heart beats brown and gold, and I'm sticking with my Hawk boys. I reckon their midfield can get the job done. We talk about how good the Mooroolbark midfield is, but when you've got players like Alex Frawley, Robbie McEwen, Lukey Scanlon, Max McCara, and Matty Stanley back into the side this week, that's just the impetus Roval need to take it right up to Mooroolbark. Roval's defence has been the best of any team in Division 2 this year. They've conceded the least number of points, and their back six are so solid. You can pick any 6 out of this group of players to play in that back line. Michael Bussey, Brendan Walsh, Mason Crozier, Matty Jackson gives them run off there. The fossil Mark Hardy, he's been super. He marshals the troops. Gavin Willoughby, he'll probably go to the big kid in Talevsky. Jay Kinder and Stephen Giorgio's been a rock. I reckon that's the key for Roval. Their backline is just so good, and they work together so well. They team, they cover each other, and I reckon they can shut down Mooroolbark to the point where they're not going to kick a big enough score. The Hawks for mine to break that finals hoodoo this week. They'll find themselves against Montrose in the Division 2 Choose Tap Grand Final next weekend, Daniel Cencic.
This is really going to be neck and neck, isn't it? Both sides having ripper clashes throughout the year. 1 win apiece. Roval winning 57 quarters for the year. Mooroolbark 53. Roval's had a great ability down back, like Pete's already said. They haven't conceded 100 points in any match this season, which is a brilliant effort considering the top sides that they've been coming up against. When we speak of those top sides, when they played against them, they have a win ratio of 5 wins and 2 losses, whereas Mooroolbark have 4 wins and 2 losses. I just like the way that each time Roval suffered defeat in season 2012, they've been able to bounce back in a big way. They'll be shattered with what happened in the fallout in the middle part of the match last weekend. They will have forgotten about that. They'll be quick to make amends. If they can shut down the big kid up forward, hold Cameron Linford and Trent Giorgio up back, Evan Hocking and James Charge, they'll go a long way to winning this game. As you've suggested, Pete, look at the Roval list and there's a wealth of talent right across there. Are they going to be able to bounce back? Only time will tell. I've stuck by North Ringwood in Division 3 to break the finals hoodoo, and I'm sticking with Roval to do the same in Divi 2. Who will play Montrose in the Division 2 Grand Final next weekend? We voted Roval will. First week of the Choose Tap Final Series in Division 1 starts out at Bayswater Oval on Saturday afternoon for the first qualifying final between Scoresby and Vermont. How good does this game look?
Yeah, look, as we've seen in the second half of the Division 1 Choose Tap season, Vermont have played really great footy, reminiscent of their premiership years, the golden era of the Vermont Football Club, and it's been through players like Jared Dalton, Thomas Carmody, Ryan Mullett, who's probably one of the best midfielders in Division 1, if not the best. Daniel Mendez has worked really well too. But look, Vermont went down to Scoresby a few weeks ago, but I think you learn more from a loss, and we often discuss the theory in the Eastern Football League about the loss you need to have. Vermont had that loss and they've learnt a lot from it. I think they'll take a lot out of that loss, they'll fix up their errors, and they'll get the job done this weekend.
We're not seeing eye to eye, Daniel Cencic, because I reckon Scoresby are the premiership favourites this year. They're going to go into this game full of confidence. They've got a forward line that's on fire at the moment, led by Chris Hogle and my man Benny Bronsgeist. He got amongst the goals last week. He could be the X factor that sets this game alight. He was super in the game against Vermont out at the Vermont Recreation Reserve just weeks ago. He took it right up to the Eagles. He kicked 3 in a 6-goal win. That was a great game. The question mark, though, for me is Jared Hicks. Does he come up? We know he's suffered a bit of an injury. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Really like the Scoresby midfield this year. Paul Chadwick, Sean Cross, David Marcius, and, of course, Adam Parker. They get great support from a guy like Brenton Legg, who's just so strong over the ball. He's like a bull at a gate in that midfield. He sets them up, provides them with a bit of hardness. Another X-factor for Scoresby is Paddy Tompkins. Playing off half-back, he stands tall. He can give them run and carry, and he'll help out guys like Jared Major and Ben Wilson down there in shutting down those Vermont forwards you spoke about. Big Lukey Van Reenen, he's the player that's going to win the game for Scoresby, though. He has been dominant over the last month of footy. Scoresby are firing on all cylinders. They're going to get the job done. They're going to steamroll into a second semi-final against Norwood next week, having knocked over Vermont tomorrow afternoon in our radio game out of Bayswater Oval.
It shapes to be a classic, Pete, and I'm sure there'll be a big crowd out there at Bayswater Oval to watch it. Both these sides are very evenly matched this season. Scoresby winning 46 quarters for the year, Vermont 47. Scoresby are ranked second in First Division for first quarters won, winning 14 out of the 18 with a points difference of plus 167. So it really goes to show that the Magpies have been able to get out of the blocks in season 2012, and Vermont would really have to watch that. Vermont were the only side to win 7 away matches this year. There were 3 sides that won 6 wins away from home, but Vermont can treat this game out at Bayswater as an away game, and they have been quite successful doing that this year. They've had the most 100-plus scores, the Eagles, with 10, but Scoresby have also had 8, so they're very capable of piling on the goals also. But Scoresby have not conceded 100 points in any game this season, so they'll really have that in their back corner going into tomorrow's match. Against the top 5, Scoresby have won 3 games and lost 3. Vermont about the same, 3 wins and 2 losses. Everywhere you look at this game, it just looks like a really even contest. It's fair to say Scoresby can go into this game favourite since they beat Vermont out at Tarara Road only a month ago. They haven't stopped going in the right direction. Is it third time lucky for the Magpies this year? I think they'll complete stage 1 tomorrow. And last but not least, the elimination final out at Tormore Reserve on Sunday afternoon. Balwyn taking on Noble Park. Traditional rivals, another cracking match.
Certainly is. We've spoken about the injuries Noble Park have had this year. They suffered 3 more on the weekend. There's going to be clouds over those 3 players. Big Glenn Manson in the ruck. He's got a bit of an ankle injury, we're hearing. May not come up for the game. I reckon he'll play, though. The other 2, a bit of a worry for Mick Fogarty and his Bulls. The 2 Kemperman brothers have been instrumental in giving them run-off half-back, setting them up this year. Both of them may not play this weekend. I reckon one will. I reckon the other one might not just come up. I'm going to hold my cards close to my chest and honour the word Mick Fogarty's put in me this week. I'm not going to give too much away, but some of the ins that Noble Park will have are going to be super for them. Luke Cody made a return to the Noble Park reserves last week, as did Matty Pearce and Craig Jackatine. I reckon they'll line up, but the big one is their captain, the reigning Chandler medalist, Craig Anderson. He's very, very likely to pull on a Noble Park jumper for the first time in the second half of this Division 1 season. I reckon it might just be what Noble Park need to get them up and about in a game against a traditional rival like Balwyn. Noble Park were gallant last week. They pushed Vermont all day. They played some of their best footy for the year early on in the game and showed that the Noble Park side are not going to roll over and die when a lot of people have been looking for the end of the dynasty. I don't reckon it's going to come Sunday afternoon out at Tormore Reserve. I reckon Noble Park can probably cause a bit of an upset and roll Balwyn to move into the second week of the finals.
Disagree, Pete. A lot of the pressure lies with Noble Park on Sunday afternoon as they defend a 3rd premiership, but they're in an elimination final. And with Balwyn in good form lately, they've got players like Benny Harris through the midfield, Charlie Hendry, Rennie Gilchrist, and of course Ryan McMahon can really do some damage on the scoreboard and run those Noble Park midfielders off their feet. And other players like Christian Sanfilippo and John Milhusen have been absolutely fantastic all season long. We can't forget that Lukey Barker's coming back into the side from a hamstring injury. He'll be ready to fire on all cylinders and expect him to kick a bag on Sunday afternoon. Noble Park's dynasty is coming to an end. Balwyn will soldier on in the Division 1 at Choose Tap final series.
Well, haven't you two really seen eye to eye this afternoon in all the matches? I think you've actually gone against each other in all of them. Amazing stuff. I like Baldwin tomorrow afternoon. I know Peter Baird's a big fan of Noble Park, but I think the three-peat cannot be completed in 2012. Baldwin's won 47 quarters this season compared to Noble Park's 39. Baldwin actually had the worst away record of any of the 5 finalists, only winning 5 wins away from home this year. But Noble Park's downfall is they've only won 6 first quarters in season 2012, and that's ranked 9th in Division 1.
One of them was last week, though, BWS against the Vermont Eagles, who we rate very highly.
Well, we certainly do, and in the Tigers' favour, they haven't conceded 100 points in any match this season like other sides we've mentioned throughout the Friday preview, but Noble Park have only conceded 100 points once, and that was in a home game against Scoresby. Noble Park have kicked 120 goals less this season than what they did in 2011, 225 compared to last year, 345, and they've only scored 100 points 4 times compared to 15 in season 2011. I think the King has started to fall. They only fell into the finals in the end. East Baird were right on their hammer, Noble Park. Yes, they took it up to Vermont last week, but maybe Vermont took the foot off the pedal a little bit until they had to put it right back down late on in the match. Baldwin senior players like Luke Barker and Norm Smith and Rennie Gilchrist, they're ready. They know what it takes to win big finals. Baldwin, they've been off the scene for a couple of years now. They're only 1 win away from finishing in second spot and gaining that second chance. Expect them to advance through. Expect Noble Park to be finishing their season early. The Tigers by 5 goals plus. Well, there it is, guys. 7 great games as you go local for your football across the Eastern Football League. It's Choose Tap finals time. Divisions 4, 3 and 2 in their second week. Division 1's only just got started. We've got a couple of weeks to go, but we're pumped for this weekend. And I thank you for joining me to go through all the games, Dan.
Always a pleasure, BWS. Cannot wait to get out to Scoresby, Vermont tomorrow afternoon, set to be a cracking match.
And the big man who milks cows for a living, who spends most of his Fridays and the rest of the week down at EFL House. It's been great to have you go through all the matches with us this afternoon, mate, and a big weekend of football on 98.1 Radio Eastern for yourself, covering Saturday and Sunday's matches.
Certainly is, and I just want to know if Daniel Cencic wants to have a wager on those games this weekend, because he hasn't gone the same tip as I in any of them. So one of us, Dan's going to be on the money and the other one's going to be off the mark.
A slab again?
Oh, we'll see what happens.
Well, we backed away from that one, didn't he? Of course, 98.1 Radio Eastern is the place to be all weekend. Saturday afternoon from 1 p.m. and, of course, Sunday from 2 p.m. Both programs going right through till 6 o'clock. We'll have around-the-ground reporters at halftime and right throughout the match. Follow us on Twitter at FootyEFL. There's only one place to be right across the weekend if you can't get out to any games, and that is 98.1 Radio Eastern from tomorrow afternoon. We are broadcasting live from 1 o'clock out at Bayswater Oval for the huge clash between Scoresby and Vermont, and of course backing it up after Akira EFL Sunday from 10 till 12 p.m. we head out to Walker Park, the MCG of the EFL, for the much anticipated clash between South Belgrave and the Basin, who will go through to the grand final.
And don't forget to tune in to EFL Sunday from 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. where we chat to winning coaches from across the Eastern Football League. EFL Sunday, proudly brought to you by Akira Urgent Care.
And for your midweek EFL fix during the finals, the Huddle gets no rest. We'll be back Wednesday night next week on 98.1 Radio Eastern between 6 and 7 p.m.
We've had a great time dissecting all the finals across the weekend this afternoon, and we hope you've enjoyed listening to us today. That's the Friday preview done and dusted for another week. There's only 4 weeks to go, everybody, before the main prize is given away. My name is Ben Warren Smith, signing off with Peter Baird and Daniel Cencic, and as a wise man once said,
stick a fork in us, we're done.